Sup nerds, Mr. No Reason here again today. I'm going to bring you a deck profile on the Amorphages that I did the deck discussion on. I think that's how I'm going to run things from now on. I'm going to do deck discussion and then a deck profile, just so you can get an understanding of the deck and then see what I run, see how I play it. I don't know, some people seemed interested. Got some comments saying I should make a deck profile, so here we go. Right, let's start off with the Amorphage monsters. I run 2 Amorphage sloths. He's the one that stops searching through the deck, essentially. So no searching apart from draws, so they can't add cards at all apart from drawing them. He is a 6-star, so he can't be Pendulum summoned, but he's a 3 scale, so he does add, again, he's quite helpful for summoning your level 4s. Everything in the deck is a 3 or a 5 Pendulum scale. His normal monster effect is that you can't special summon from the extra deck. So, your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck, so no, crazy XYZ plays or synchro plays or whatever. Most of the Morphages have that effect as well. Actually, I think it's all of them. I think all of them have that effect. So yeah, that's 2 sloths. Next up, I run 3 Amorphage Goliath. Goliath is effectively Macrocosmos, so anything that hits the graveyard is removed. The opponent, when he's in the scale zone, you have to control an Amorphage monster for these pendulum effects to happen. And also, when they're in the pendulum zone, you need to tribute a monster every turn. Otherwise, you need to sacrifice them, they get destroyed. He's a 5 scale as well, and he's the biggest attack that I've got in the deck. It's 2750. He's easily boosted though. He can pretty much get over a lot of things when he's boosted. It's not rare to have him over 3000. He's just a massive beast stick, essentially. Most of the time, he isn't really used as a pendulum scale. It's just on the field, just a hit for massive damage. Next up, I have 3 Lechery. Lechery is the no spells apart from Amorphage spells, so shuts down quite a lot of things. Like anyone that wants to use any form of spell, you know. Here we go, Lechery, you can't do that. 3 scale, he's also an attacking one, if you really did want to summon him, a 1350. He's a level 2 though, so it means that he can't really be pendulum summoned in this deck. Next up, we got 3 Gluttonies. Gluttony is probably my favourite card in the deck. He stops your opponent using their card effects, so anything that pops off in the graveyard or from hand or anything like that, anything that's targets anything on the field, any cool effects that you can search or whatever, just stop that. This is 0 attack, but he's a level 2, so like I said, he can't really be pendulum summoned either. Next up, I run 2 Prides. Pride is essentially just a 1750, and he's a level 4, so he can be pendulum summoned. I don't really use him for anything else apart from that. His effect's kind of useless. Next up, we have 3 Amorphage Wrath. Wrath is the one I prefer. He stops your opponent tributing, or you tributing, apart from Amorphage monsters, and he's a 1650. So I prefer his effect over Pride's effect. Pride's effect, just in case you didn't know, is to stop you taking effect damage. So anything that can deal 300 damage to your opponent or whatever, great. Pride stops that, but Wrath stops him tributing. He's a level 4, so he can be pendulum summoned, and he's a 1650, so he's not the worst, I guess, when he's boosted. And the last Amorphage card, I just run 1 copy of Greed. Zero attack level 4, 3 scale. His effect is he stops using trap cards apart from Amorphage traps. But I don't actually run any Amorphage traps, so I only run one of him just in case I get locked out. Because obviously when he's on the field he stops using any traps. But he also stops your opponent using traps, so he's pretty good for that, I guess. Next on to the support cards. I run quite a few support cards. I run 2 Lectors. Lector's effect, he negates all effects on of face-up Pendulum monsters, while your opponent controls Pendulum monsters. So it's pretty good in like anything that runs pendulums, like the mirror match or some kind of odd eyes variant stupid thing. If your opponent wants to play any pendulum monsters, essentially just turns your field into massive beta dragons and they have nothing. He's also level 4 and 1950, so you can't really complain at that. He's pretty big. Next up is probably the better version, in my opinion anyway, is Vector. Vector is a 1850, level 4, so obviously he can be pendulum summoned, 3 scale, so he adds to the scales as well, pretty helpful. But he just negates all pendulum that in your opponent's side of the field. So yeah, just stop your opponent from doing anything stupid. If they use pendulums, just play him. If not, he's an XYZ target or he's an 1850. Not too bad. Next up, we have Master Pendulum. Master Pendulum is used pretty much to destroy anything in the pendulum zone. That could be anything your pendulum zone, either say if you need to activate a trap or you have a greed, for example, he's clogging you up, you can just pop him. It works quite well with Amorphage infections, and you get the search off as well. Plus, again, he's a 1950, he's pretty considerable, and he's a level 4 and a 3 scale, so fits really well into this deck. Last with the Draco Slayers, we have Luster. Good guess if you were thinking, where's the Luster? Here it is. Luster is incredible in any pendulum deck, that's why he's restricted to 1 at the moment. Yeah, so you can pop anything in your pendulum zone to search for the same one. It's pretty good for filling up your extra deck for like summoning with anything else, like any Call of the Hornets or that kind of variant. You can just fill up the extra decks. Well, not Call of the Hornets, but just a way to fill up the extra deck. Looks really good in gold rare. Damn. But yeah, he's 1850, a level 4, and he's also a 5 pendulum, so he works really well. Okay, and the last support card I run is Samurai Cavalry. I run 2 copies of this, level 4, 1800, so he's quite a big beat stick. He's a 3 scale, and basically when he battles something that isn't a pendulum, you can just destroy it. So he gets rid of like a hell of a lot of problem cards, like a real lot of problem cards. Anything that isn't a pendulum, basically, just get him, beat into it. There we go. Puts the pendulum, goes back to the extra deck. It's level 4, summon him again. It's not really that good in the pendulum zone, but he's there, I guess. He is he's a 3 scale if you really need it. Okay, then that's it with the monsters. Moving on to the spells, I run 3 copies of Amorphage Infection. Infection is pretty much the reason that you run Amorphages. When they're destroyed by card effects or by battle or tributed or whatever, you get to search your deck for another Amorphage card, so it could be another Infection, or it can be a specific scale that you're looking for, or it can be a specific effect you're looking for. You can just search it out, plus it gives all your Amorphage monsters plus 100 attack and defense for every Amorphage card, so that includes itself. So if you just have this with 2 scales and 1 Amorphage monster, that's plus 400. Yeah, it's pretty considerable. Plus it stacks, because obviously it's a continuous spell. So you can just get loads of these, stack the field with them, and become a real big threat. This is the great way of getting over anything, pretty much. You get your Goliaths down, pump them up massively, they become huge, and then just beat down. Next up, I run 2 Amorphous Personas. Not the best card in the world, pretty much use it just because all Amorphage monsters gain 300 attack. It's a field spell, so obviously you can't stack this. When they're tributed, you can, up to twice per turn, you can draw. That sometimes comes in, obviously, because you need to tribute a monster per pendulum scale you have, if they're Amorphage scales. So it can come in handy, kind of, not really. It also has an effect to summon the ritual monster, but do not run that as you just saw, so that's irrelevant. That's pretty much why I run 2 copies of it, because I don't run the ritual card. Next up, I run 3 A Feather of the Phoenix. Basically discard a card to get a card from the graveyard and add it back. I use it in conjunction with my trap cards, or just in case anything gets hit to the graveyard for some janky reason. So like, if they pop Infection, it's really good. You can just pull it back. And that's it with these spells. With A Feather of the Phoenix, you'll probably see in a second why I run 3. Okay, I run, up with the traps, I run 3 Pendulum Reborn. Pendulum Reborn, basically, if it's in the extra deck, you can pull it back to the field or the Pendulum Zone. I run 3 of these because there's a lot of cards in the deck that don't meet the criteria to be Pendulum summoned. Some level 6s, I think Goliath's a level 8, there's some level 2s. So you can pull them back, blow them up. It's also a good target for Phoenix. And lastly, I run 3 copies of Solomon's Lawbook. Solomon's Lawbook, for those of you who don't know, because no one knows what this card is, it's super old, is you basically skip your next standby phase. So because in your standby phase you need to tribute the cards to keep your Pendulum Zones alive, you can just play that. I skip my next standby phase. You can also pull that back with Feather of the Phoenix. That's why Feather's really useful. You play Solomon, bring Feather back, it goes back to the top of the deck. Obviously you can discard whatever, because it doesn't really matter, because you can just pull it back with Pendulum Reborn. And then you get 2 standby phases where you don't have to tribute. Sometimes you do actually want to tribute though, because there's a lot of benefits to tributing. So you don't always use Solomon's Lawbook, because obviously if you have your infections and stuff stacked up, you pretty much want to be tributing so you get the extra searches. But this is here because I noticed that a lot of the time your opponent just tends to pop a lot of stuff on the field, and then you don't have any monsters, so they just get destroyed. So you can just pop Solomon's Lawbook and then they stay up, and then you can Pendulum Summon. So then you've got like, it saves you for a turn essentially. So if you've got a really good oppressive Pendulum lineup, you can just Solomon's Lawbook. They have to deal with it for another turn. They think they've got out of it. No, they haven't. As for extra decks, I actually don't run one, so I really don't think this deck needs one. I mean, I guess you can run some level 4s. There's some really good level 4 synchros, as I'm sure you all know. Sorry, not synchros, XYZs, but I really don't think it's necessary. A lot of the time you want the Amorphage on the field to stay Amorphages, you don't want any other stuff. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the entire deck. So yeah, leave a comment down below if you think there's anything I missed out, or if you enjoyed it, if you want me to make any more of these more deck profiles to see what I run. Just let me know down in the comments, or leave me a like. It's Mr. No Reason signing out.